Hi, my name is Courtney. I'm one of the general partners of Alwyn Capital, and I'm on stage today to tell you not to take venture funding. So I think we're talking a lot about how the funding environment has been very, very challenging for both alternative protein, plant-based companies, cell ag, fermentation. And so we have a lot of startup founders coming to us and asking us, okay, well, if we can't raise venture, what do we do? So one of the things that I would encourage you, and I'm sort of structured this talk for folks that are thinking about raising a company, maybe they're working in a university lab thinking about how to transfer that technology into something that's commercializable. So I've broken this down into thinking about, is your company ready for dilutive or non-dilutive funding? Many of you have probably are familiar with a lot of the SBIR, STTR grants that are available through some of the organizations like NIH, ARPA-H, BARDA. I think that we will hopefully see those programs come back online. Congress has yet to renew that funding. Since 1982, they have not stopped that program. We expect that it will come back online. So I think that one of the things that young companies can do is really leverage what's available in non-dilutive funding. So if you think about where your company currently is, if you've got an idea on paper, probably a VC is not going to give you capital. If you've got a really good pitch deck and a founding team, if you're an incredibly good storyteller, you can probably get some early stage funding. The caveat is that you need to be ready for Series A. So if you're thinking about where you are in your company's life cycle, that's probably number one. So one of the ways that you can use these government grants is to de-risk your technology, your company, your strategy, your narrative, your ability to work with your co-founders if you have them, is by using some of this non-dilutive funding to prove that you actually have what it takes to build a scalable company. So until, as I mentioned, we get some new grant funding available from the federal government, in the meantime, what we can leverage is philanthropic capital. Now, there's a bunch of different things on this page. I'm going to have a QR code at the end with a bunch of resources, so you guys don't need to take pictures of this. There's going to be links. I've made it very easy for you. One of the things that philanthropic capital does and can do is be incredibly good at de-risking opportunities. They step into funding opportunities where venture capital, who needs to see a return in a 10-year life cycle of a fund, maybe doesn't have the patience for your technology. So there's a couple of different ways that philanthropic organizations can fund company technology. One of them is a mission-related investment. That's an MRI. That's something that they expect to see a financial return from, but it's not guaranteed. A program-related investment, a PRI, is something that a philanthropic organization recognizes that this for-profit entity is working on a technology or a solution that aligns with their mission statement. So let's say we're a climate foundation. We want to reduce the amount of methane that's emitted. So we're going to fund an organization or a company that is working on building a cell ag platform that will reduce the number of cows that are killed for food every year. So that aligns with our foundation's mission. This is something that we can invest in through our foundation and treat it as if it is a grant. Treat it as if it is a part of a 501c3 donation. And so this is an incredibly good way to find out what foundations align with your company's mission statement and leverage that ability to use philanthropic capital in order to fund early stage investment into your company and your technology. The other thing that is often talked about in philanthropic circles is donor advised funds. There's trillions of dollars sitting in donor advised funds, not being leveraged for anything right now. It is invested in open market, and it can really be used to catalyze some of what we're talking about doing today. There's a number of different organizations on this page. This is not an exhaustive list. But donor advised funds are essentially housed in a structure that donors donate this money into, and they advise the fiduciary or the financial institution what they would like to see it either donated to or invested in. And these are things, if you find a high net worth individual that has a DAF that really aligns with what your company is doing, you can work with a company like Impact Assets and get that donor to invest in your company. It is not an investment, it is essentially a donation. So that's another thing that you can use. Obviously, accelerators and incubators, I want to just plug one opportunity that is expiring in a couple of days. Beam, which is run through Generator, has a circular bioeconomy incubator or accelerator that is open right now to applications. It ends January 11th. It's on, again, the last sheet that I'll give you as a QR code. But if you're working in circular economy, that is definitely one to check out. So all this to say, I'll be around all day today and tonight. If you guys have any questions, please come and talk to me. I know there's a lot of information about different things, but really what you have to ask yourself is, where's your company right now? What's the best source of funding that's available to you? And before you try and go out and raise your first venture dollar, think about, what non-dilutive funding you can actually get. And even if the government is still not allocating capital, there's a lot of different other resources that are out there to help you. And there's the QR code. If you have questions, I'll take them, but please. So, great question. Specifically for people on visas, I don't know necessarily. I do not believe SBIR is specifically for companies that are founded by American citizens. You do have to be incorporated in the US, though. Why is private investment cool right now? They aren't optimistic about the timeline for the future. Private investment is kind of cool right now because liquidity is locked up. People aren't seeing exits, and in order for us to go out and raise our next venture fund, we have to see exits for our underlying investors. And so a lot of that has been part of the problem with what's happening. AI has also taken a huge amount of mind share, and so things like sustainability are kind of secondary. Everybody wants to put money into data centers. Yes, I'll go back and try and get the QR code. Are those resources focused on USA or other countries can have them? There are a number of lists of incubators and accelerators there that are global. Most of what I just talked about is US specific. Does a startup having a university affiliation help or hurt their chance of early stage funding in your opinion? It depends on where your IP lies. So if the university owns a significant portion of your IP, you're in trouble. If they do not, if you're just using lab space, that's actually probably a benefit to you. What's the difference between MRIs and PRIs? So mission-related investments, program-related investments. Mission-related investments can come out of the corpus of the endowment, meaning I've got $10 million sitting in a foundation. I can invest any part of that out into a company. If it's a program-related investments, private foundations are required by law every year in the US to allocate 5% of their entire endowment to 501c3s or to program-related initiatives that are nonprofits. They can use PRIs as an investment tool, and so you can kind of treat it as if it's an investment, a grant into a nonprofit. So that's a PRI that comes out of the 5% that the organization would have to allocate every year anyway, and an MRI comes out of the regular corpus of their investment. If you have more questions, come and find me later. I'm pretty easy to find, happy to talk to you, but I'll stop there.